and that is the 2013-2014 utility rates. Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Committee of the Whole. I'm Greg Zimmerman, Renton's Public Works Administrator. As you know, an important part of our annual budgeting process is the process of analyzing upcoming expenditures and revenue in our three piped utilities, which is water, wastewater, and surface water, and also our solid waste utility, to determine the revenue needs in order to run the program for the two-year budget process. In 2010, the City Council adopted financial criteria that were intended to stabilize the utility funds and directed that these criteria be implemented over a 5-year period, starting with the first year being in 2011. Using these criteria, we've developed the 2013-2014 utility revenue requirements, including the Utility Capital Improvement Program and rates that will provide the required revenue to finance the program over the 2 budget years. Lise Hornsby, the city's Utility Systems Director, has a presentation for you on the 2013-2014 utility revenue requirements. So, Lise.
Good evening, Council. Over here. Good evening, Council. That's better. My name is Lise Hornsby, Utility Systems Director, and I have a presentation on the utility revenue needs and the capital improvement program for 2013 and 2014. Tonight I'll be talking about the historical factors, the financial policies that Greg mentioned, our funding options, the capital improvement program, the proposed revenue projections, the average monthly bills, the proposed increase to the utility tax, other considerations, and our recommendations. The historical factors that have influenced our rates: for many years we supported economic development and growth, and we held the rates and connection charges at a very low rate. We had much lower system reinvestment and maintenance than we probably should have. We had lower fund balances and a higher debt load. The financial policies that we approved in 2010 were meant to remedy that. They covered reserves, our funding, our debt load. I'll talk about more about that in a minute. And in addition, we were approved to have a 5-year plan to implement those financial policies, and we also projected out what a 5-year rate plan would be implementing those 5-year financial policies. 2013, by the way, is the 3rd year of those 5 years. Come on, you. Oh, did the mouse? Oh, there we go. I thought the mouse died. Okay, the financial policies, we covered reserves, the debt service coverage ratio, 1.25, our operating reserves at 12%, which is basically represents 30 days of operating budget. We want to have that in our funds ready to go in case anything happens. That we have a rate stabilization fund designated, that's required by bond covenants, and that we have a fund balance in our, also in our solid waste fund. The 12% operating budget, the 30 days of operation, is in water, wastewater, and surface water. But we also needed a fund balance designated in solid waste of $400,000 was our target, and in the King County Wastewater Treatment Fund, and that's $380,000. Those amounts were designated based on a cash flow such that we would never be running a large negative in the account, that based on how much would come in and how much we would be paying out, that we would have enough to cover any kind of a deficit that might occur. Those were all designated and determined with the help of the finance department. The financial policies also included the annual system reinvestment goals. The water utility, in order to cover the life cycle of the infrastructure, the various pieces of the infrastructure, We need to have a target of $4 million to be reinvested in the utility on an annual basis. Wastewater utility, $2 million, and surface water utility, $3 million. And the goal is to phase in these policies, implementation of these policies over 5 years, starting in 2011 and then ending in 2015 with full implementation. The funding options also included in these financial policies include how we bond and what we collect, how we implement what we collect with rates. The bonds are stipulated for growth projects where you're putting in new infrastructure, where you're putting in capacity improvements. Those projects where you are going to be serving future growth, then they will pay, or they will help to pay with connection charges, and future rates will go into paying for those bonds. If you're paying for maintenance, rehabilitation and replacement, and programs that are serving the current ratepayers, those should be paid for with rates. And that will keep your debt to cash ratio stable. If you bond everything, you get into debt, and then all you're doing is paying down your debt. Uh-oh, I was back one. Okay. The capital improvement program for 2013 and 14 continues on the emphasis on system reinvestment, which is maintenance, rehabilitation, and replacement, meeting regulations, and programmatic work, program work, such as updating our geographic information system, our models, our system plans, and that kind of thing. The water CIP, the main replacements that we've identified, we have accounts in budget lines in each of the piped utility CIPs that are money just for infrastructure replacement, and generally we have money in there for just general rehab and replacement. Sometimes we have projects identified that are high priority. Other times we have some money that's not specifically identified, and we meet annually every year at the beginning of the year with the shop's personnel to identify and share information on the most needy pipe segments or other infrastructure pieces that need to be worked on. For 2013 and 14, we've identified ahead of time several infrastructure segments that need work. For water, Rainier Avenue South, we're doing significant work along with the transportation project. We're going to be doing work up in President's Park main replacement. I've put a 11 by 17 map of the CIP locations if you want to just, if you're curious about location. I know it's kind of small. I tried to put it up on a slide, but I tried it up here and it didn't work, so I had to bring a hard copy. Anyway, President Park, also Monterey Terrace, we're doing some replacement up there. We're doing a replacement on the Northeast 24th transmission main and the Talbot Road main extension. And we'll be doing some other segments out as they're identified with our meeting with the shops. We're doing some disinfection improvements that will be piping for wells 8, 9, and emergency well 3. Under reservoir capacity, we're going to be doing improvements up in reservoir replacement up in the Highlands 435 zone. That's on the site of the elevated tank in the Highlands, but it's the ground level reservoirs. They've been leaking fairly badly for a number of years, and we're going to basically rehabilitate that entire site. It's a rather large site, and we're going to basically put in new ground level reservoirs and take the others out of service, and we can get quite a bit more capacity up there. In addition, we're going to be acquiring property for a new 196 zone reservoir, which is the lowest downtown reservoir that we have. up in the Black River area. And we'll also be working to recoat the South Talbot Hill Reservoir. That's the reservoir down by the hospital, Valley Medical Center. We will be continuing our work on automated meter reading. That's a 5 or 6 year program of replacing our meters with the automated, the radio reads. And this is the first year, so that will be continuing. Our programs that we have in the water program, water conservation, obviously, that's a big program we have with Seattle. Working on our system plan will probably be, it's in for final approval. We'll be receiving that in early 2013. That's a requirement that we have to do every 6 years. Updating our GIS, Geographical Information System, that's something we do we do an annual update of that every year. Annually updating our hydraulic model and doing our monitoring. The wastewater CIP is emphasizing, again, basically replacements and rehabilitations. The lift station improvements, we will be improving or replacing the airport lift station, the Misty Cove lift station, Lind Avenue lift station. We'll be eliminating the East Renton lift station, and we will be installing the Liberty lift station. We are also going to be doing a series of telemetry upgrades. And then under main replacement and rehabilitation, we are working on the South 132nd Street extension, the Thunder Hill Interceptor, the Central Renton Interceptor, we're relining that, the Renton Hill Deep Manhole, and then we have another annual sanitary sewer rehabilitation project line item that we will be meeting with the shops and determining the most needy projects for the years, 2 years. Oops, I forgot programs. Programs, again, the hydraulic model for wastewater, and then they'll be working to implement their operations master plan. Surface water's kind of an interesting one for 2013 and 14. They got grants for 5 pretty big projects. The Sunset Terrace Regional Stormwater Facility, the Harrington Green Connection, Hardy and Southwest 7th Storm System, the Rainier Avenue retrofit, and the Northeast 10th and Anacortes Pond retrofit. So that's going to be quite a large workload for them, and lots of grant money. That's a good thing. But should be an interesting, busy year, or 2 years. The infrastructure maintenance and rehabilitation for them is the Northeast 5th and Edmonds maintenance or rehab, Monroe Avenue and North 2nd infiltration. And then they have a small drainage problem project, again, where problems are identified and we go out and fix them. And then major maintenance, we're starting the Cedar River dredging, the design for the maintenance dredging on the Cedar River, finishing up the Elliott Spawning Channel repair. We added a stormwater facility fencing project. And then we do Maplewood Creek and Madsen Creek sediment pond cleaning. And their programs are similar to the other piped utilities. We have the Geographical Information System updates, monitoring their system plan, and then they have mosquito abatement and the system field mapping. Oh, there we go. All right. So now we get into what is driving our rates for 2013 and 2014. Back when we were doing the financial policies and we had a projection of the 5-year rates to implement those financial policies, water came in at 6% for 2013 and 14. And when we modeled it this time for the 2013-14, we came up with a proposed rate of 5% for both years. Wastewater was projected at 5% for both years, but in the meantime, which we did not include in our projection, King County Wastewater Treatment had a 10.2, or is proposing a 10.2% increase for 2013. But even with that 10.2% increase, we still, when we modeled that, including that increase, because wastewater needs to cover the utility tax on that charge, we still came out with 5%. So we were able to at least match that projection. The surface water utility, the projection was 5%, but again, in the interim, the council approved the new program to maintain the single-family residential, to take over maintenance of the single-family residential ponds and stormwater infrastructure. That was projected to add an additional 7% to the rates, which would have been a 12% increase in 2013 and a 12% increase in 2014. And when we modeled it with our cuts, we came out with 5 and 5. Now, the way we did that was we had 2 unfilled positions in surface water that we cut. So that's how we came up with 5% instead of 12% for those 2 years. Solid waste, we didn't really have a projection because we didn't run the rate model in that manner. But in the between the 2010 and now, we had a 32% increase in the tipping fee at the transfer station, a 3% estimated contractor consumer price index increase that's in our contract, and a 35% increase in the local hazardous waste management program. And so when we put those in, that basically increased our fee just to have those, the 2 external and the 1 contract increase. That was a 5% increase to our rates. So it ended up being 5% across the board for both years. So I see some frowning.
So on, we may be going back.
Okay, yeah. All right. So, all right. Anyway, using those numbers, the 5s, basically the increases to the average single-family monthly bill, water in 2013 and 14 is $1.75 and $1.85, wastewater $1.25 and $1.32, surface water is 57 cents and 60 cents, and solid waste 96 cents and $1. And then if you go to the actual, come on, mousy, there we go, to the actual total bills, it's $36.93 for water, $26.33, $12.08 for surface water, $20.11 for solid waste, with a total of $95.45, and then $38.78, $27.65, $12.68, $21.11, and $122 for 2014. And that's compared to 2012 bill of $90.92.
Okay, Lisa,
Oh.
now will you roll back a couple of slides?
Sure. Here?
So, yeah, thank you. So when we did the financial plan, you know, we knew we were doing it at a rough time in the economy, but we also knew that realistically it had to be done for sufficiency of the system and to make sure that we left something in the future that was viable. I'm seeing, as we've shown what the 5% works out to, we're not talking, even though some of these percentage numbers seem large, not a whole lot of money, but we're not passing on. So two things is that, are we, by keeping it at 5, are we digging ourselves a hole? And that we also, I think I recall in our discussion on the financial plan, is that we would not hide King County's rates in our rates, as in if King County raised it, that it wasn't to be tempered or offset by us. We needed to let people address that with King County. Can you address that?
We don't, other jurisdictions include the county's, the way they charge is different. I know it's kind of complicated. They use current rate and charge for consumption going back. They use the rate at a, it's hard to explain. When we charge it like month to month with the rate in that month. They charge it like the past quarter with the rate in the forward time. So what happens is when they have if they don't have a rate increase, all is cool. If they have a rate increase, however, we're charging September, October, November, December with the rate. Then January comes along and there's a rate increase. Well, we've been charging for that last quarter with the old number and the consumption. When January comes along, the way Metro charges it, or King County charges it, is they charge with the new increased rate and the past quarter consumption. So what does that do? We haven't charged enough because of the way the billing works. So some jurisdictions include that in the way they bill the county rate. What we do in Renton is we have what we call a King County rate stabilization charge, and that's $1.16 right now, and we're not proposing to change that. We're saying that's good, that's working for us, and that's at the end of my presentation. The reason I bring up the King County 10.2% here is because the way we calculate utility tax, city utility tax, it's off gross revenues. So the wastewater utility is collecting the Metro charge. It comes through our coffers or whatever. So we're collecting that money, so the city takes off the utility tax. Well, they can't charge the county because we're just charging the money and giving it to the county. So our wastewater utility, the city wastewater utility, pays the tax on the King County wastewater charge and the city wastewater charge. So that's how it's affected. So when you calculate, now this again kind of gets complicated, but when you calculate it, I'll try to make it easy. When you calculate the tax rate, the effective tax rate to the city wastewater utility, they're paying over 20% utility tax. And as you'll see when we go on, there was a proposal for the utilities to help the general fund by increasing the utility tax. And you'll see I didn't change the wastewater tax because they're already paying a lot. So you'll see.
On these rate drivers, but we are keeping with the goal of the financial plan, which was not to create a bigger hole.
Yes.
To be.
Yeah. So we've analyzed it, and the $1.16 is still keeping us, even with that charging methodology, and we're building that $380,000 fund balance for that King County Metro, so that when they have that rate increase, that we don't get caught. So it builds, then they have the rate increase, and it goes down because we're having to pay that money out again. And then once there's a few years in between when they don't have a rate increase, it builds up again, and then they have their rate increase, and then we take it back down again. Okay. So, yeah.
Thank you.
We've got it figured out now. Any other questions? Okay, it's absolutely riveting. See, I told you, Mark. Okay. Oops. Wait. Whoop. Too far. Maybe not. All right. So, where was I? All right. Now here, we were asked by the general fund to come up with approximately $450,000 without increasing the rates. So well, you can't do it without any impact, but minimal impact. So what we did was we ran the rate model and we came up with, in fact, it worked out that it was all 0.8%, but 0.8% basically gave, and no increase to wastewater, because just that 10.2% increase in the King County Metro charge gave an additional tax of about $100 and something thousand. So I said, okay, that's their share. So anyway, 0.8% across the board to the other 3 utilities provided, plus the wastewater automatic increase from the King County rate increase, gave the approximately $450,000 to the general fund, which makes the new tax rate for water 8.3. If you recall, that's 8.3 because it was 7.5, and it was 7.5, not 6, because of the fire hydrant. Do you remember? No? There was a case against Seattle, Lane versus Seattle, and it was determined, the court determined that fire hydrants are a general government service, and so the general fund is supposed to pay for them. So the general fund pays so the water utility figured out roughly how much the water or the fire hydrants are worth, and then they charged the general fund for the hydrants, and then the general fund charges it back to the water utility in a 1.5% increase in the utility tax. So it's all kind of even Steven. So their tax rate right now is 7.5. So if you add 0.8 to that, it's 8.3. So the new rate's 8.3.
Mr. Chair?
Oh,
Just a quick clarification. Now, this is just money transferred among accounts in the city, right?
Yes.
So consumers, homeowners, the maximum utility rate, or utility tax they have is 6%, correct?
What the 8.3% comes off of the revenue, but then the general fund pays it, so it's not really seen.
Okay, and in fact, okay, so and our utility tax for homeowners doesn't even apply to these.
It's an internal thing. It
Yeah.
really doesn't impact like what they're paying.
Okay.
I mean, they're paying the same whether or not we did this or not. I mean, it's an internal loop.
Okay, and the fees that we were just looking at were the totals for what the homeowners would pay.
Right. Because the general fund pays it to us, to the water utility, and then the general fund gets it back in the tax. It's just an internal
Right, sort of
accounting thing.
from in and out of the enterprise fund
Right.
for the utilities.
Right. So it doesn't really impact the
Right.
rates or
Okay.
anything.
Yeah, I
It's
just
in-
wanted to make sure I
Close
understood
loop.
that correctly. Okay.
So anyway, it makes the water tax rate 8.3, wastewater stays at 6, surface water goes to 6.8, and solid waste goes to 6.8. Now, how could we do this? Basically, with wastewater, we didn't have to do anything because it was automatically in the taxes, or the tax increase from the King County increase. Solid waste, what we did, we found that the fund balance that we were building to meet the financial policies was growing a little bit faster than we actually had to have it to meet the 5 years. So we skimmed a little off of it, slowed the rate down a bit, still going to meet it in the 5 years, and gave it to the general fund, and then made the 5% rate increase cover exactly those increases. That 2 of them were external and we didn't have any control, and then the contractual obligation is exactly that 5% increase. Surface water, again, we had the 2 cut positions, and we had a lot of grant money, and about almost just shy of half of the money in the 2013 CIP and the 2014 CIP are from other sources other than our rates. Wastewater, didn't have to worry too much about that one. Water, again, we took some of the carry forward money that we would have carried forward. We just are not going to carry forward some of it and use it for this purpose. That's how we did it. Come on. And then other considerations, here's where we're going to keep the King County rate stabilization charge at $1.16. We have found that it's building and then decreasing with their rates at the proper amount. So we're going to leave that alone. We've kind of found a good balance there, as long as they don't go crazy and increase their rates too much or too often. And then just another mention that the King County's charge is going to increase by $369 from $36.10 to $39.79 in 2013, and then it won't change in 2014. So our recommendations would be to approve the 2013 and 14 proposed revenue increases, approve the proposed utility tax increases, and to keep the King County rate stabilization charge at $1.16 per wastewater account.
Questions from council?
I have a couple questions. I saw that you have, and you mentioned the stormwater fencing project.
Mm-hmm.
You said one, just one?
No. This is a project that we added kind of late in the game because of the issues that we had with the one incident. And we've already fenced that pond and the one that was next to it. And we put in $100,000 a year for 6 years, I believe. Ron, 6 years, to fence. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of the ponds that we currently have under ownership and look at, prioritize them by proximity to like schools, parks, density of housing and children and that kind of thing. And we'll do those first and then just move through all of them, hopefully get through them. We're not sure, how much they're all going to cost because it's all unique designs and such, but we're hoping that the 6 years, $600,000 will do it. And when we get to the end of it, we'll reanalyze, but we'll do the most dangerous or whatever, highest priority ones first and move through them.
And these are the stormwater projects or facilities that we took in through annexation, right?
These are any that don't have fences that seem to be, because these are ones that met the pond that had the incident, mm-hmm. and the one next to it meet the standards, which are the lower slope, mm-hmm. and supposedly that somebody can walk out of it is the whole idea, but they still seem to be giving people concerns. So no, we're basically going to look at mostly just where they're located, mm-hmm. in terms of the issues that might arise, and fence them. And whether they're ours or whether we got them from annexation, if they're ours from
right.
whatever source, we'll be prioritizing them and fencing them.
Right. Okay. I just was concerned if one project cost $100,000.
No.
It was going to take us a long time.
There's a lot of them.
The mosquito abatement at Talbot Hill. I remember getting complaints from the folks. I think it's Windspur up there by the hospital above. Is that the only place in the city we do mosquito
yes.
abatement? And it's $100,000 a year.
We've been doing that for a while. What, Ron?
We do the.
Ron, come up to the front, please. Thank you.
Panther
Good
Creek
evening.
area.
Ron Straka, City of Renton, surface water utility. So we've been treating for many years the Panther Creek, the Talbot Hill area above the Panther Creek wetlands, but part of that, we're also treating our stormwater facilities,
yeah.
the ponds that we own. We do larvicide treatments in them to control mosquitoes and because of the concern with what's now a virus.
Right.
So there's an increase in the 2013 budget to account for the fact that we're going to have more stormwater ponds that are going to need treatment, and that's why there's an increase from past years. In the past, we've had a $50,000 budget for that, and because we're taking over 213 stormwater facilities in Platts, not all of them are ponds, but there's quite a few of them that are ponds that
right.
we will be checking for mosquito larvae and doing treatments in them as well.
We contract the larviciding of the ponds and the spraying of the uplands in the Panther Creek wetlands. How long have we been doing the larvicide now of the ponds, which is different than the
I
spraying?
want to say 4 years
Yeah.
since West Nile virus became an issue.
And at first it was just a handful of ponds, and now it's
With annexations and,
Yeah.
and we have 100 ponds, and we're taking in another 213 as part of our program to take over the facilities in single-family residential
Wow.
lots.
Oh, well, that's, okay, that explains it.
So we slingshot in the
Yeah.
the larvicide. Anyway, yeah, that's that project.
I have another question. Can I?
Good, Marcy?
You mentioned that grants. Which one was that on? Surface water?
Yes, there's 5 projects
Which
that
one?
we
Which
got
projects
grant
are they?
Department of Ecology grants, and they are the Sunset Terrace. There's a regional stormwater facility as part that's going to go in the park part of that facility there. We got the grant for that, and then there's a Harrington Green connection also in that area along Harrington Avenue. Hardy and Southwest 7th storm system, and then there's a Rayner Avenue retrofit where we're putting in, what do they call those things? Filteras to cleanse the stormwater, and then the Northeast 10th and Anacortes Pond retrofit. So there's 5 projects that we got grant money for. So 75-25, right? 75% grant, 25% local.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. And then my last one, on the utility rates, we do have a discount for seniors?
Yes,
Low
we still
incomes?
have the same program. We have, I can't remember when we upgraded the program or changed the program to just a 50% discount from, we used to have a very complicated, convoluted thing. We left the people that were on that on it, and they just grandfather out whenever things take its course. But anybody that joined the program after, it was a couple years ago, I believe, you just get a 50% discount on your, whatever you choose. If you choose a solid waste service level of, you had to have the mini can in the other one. If you need something larger, you can get it, and you just get the 50% discount. It's just much easier to implement. So yes, that is in, still active.
And for folks to get that, they would contact the utilities department?
Utility billing
Utility
has the
bill.
applications, and they'll walk people through it if they need help.
And once they are accepted, it sounds like that's it. They don't have to reapply.
I believe you have to reapply. I don't do it myself, but I think you have to reapply annually. I'm not positive. Pardon? Every other year.
Every other year. Okay. Great. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Other council members?
Mr. Chair?
Andy?
Yeah, I had one question, and I don't know if you're prepared to answer this one tonight or not. A little bit complicated, but the water rates we've always had, or not always, but in the last 10 years or so, we've had a little bump in rates as the total consumption goes up per household. That is to say, you get a baseline amount of water at a certain rate, and then the more water you consume, the rate goes up. And you may or may not remember, I've always had some objections to this because I have a very large household. I've always had, I have 5 kids, so there's always been like 7 of us. And as they've gotten older, it's even become more pronounced. So I always feel like...
I think we duked it out last time. You said I won, though. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I just kind of wanted to confirm that we weren't, exaggerating that any further. That is to say, I think the last time we sort of compromised on, okay, if you use more than a certain amount, the rate goes up a little bit. But I just want to make sure we're not pushing it too high for large families like mine.
We still have, we have 3 blocks in the city, less than 500, then 500 to 1,000, and over 1,000, and then there's nothing for like over 1,000. You just have fun. It's just the 3 blocks. I'm not sure what you would consider, too much or whatever, but like less than 500 cubic feet per month is $2.30 per 100. So that'd be like for 5 units, it's $2.30 per unit. For 5 to 10, it's $3.09 per unit. And for over 10, so 10 point something, 11, 12, it's $3.90 per unit.
Okay. So it gets close. The highest usage is, it's not quite double the
Conservation.
price of the, yeah. Now, but I understand the conservation thing, but I don't know if you understand the large family thing, right? So six people each living in their own house would get their water at the lowest rate, but 6 people living in the same house are paying the higher rate.
I think this is where I won the argument. 6 people living in their own house also pay the basic charge. And that's $15.96 without a drop of water. So if you paid $15.96, you pay that for one charge for one house, and then that right there blows it out of the water, because you can get like 5 units of water at the highest rate, and one person doesn't even use that much. I have 4 people in my. I have 4
That's
people.
meter charge. Every meter has a meter charge, and she's talking about that. So if you had one house,
Right.
you'd pay 1 meter charge of $15.
Yeah.
If you had 6 houses, before you even used any water, that would be 6 houses paying $15 each. So that's where the comparison gets.
Yeah, I think I understand that. Although in that case, it's costing the city more. I mean, the meter charge is partly because that's an amount that can be flowed by that house, and we have to have fire capacity to accommodate that. So this is just really an issue of not putting too high of an added burden on large families that's disproportionate, on a per person basis. So that is to say, if you've got 2 people living at the house, they'll pay a certain rate per cubic foot for water. If they have 3 children, then the 3 children, they might be paying at a higher rate than they are for themselves for those children. And I think in the past I've just said I don't want it to be too much higher. Because the intention is, after all, to keep them from, running the water unnecessarily, being wasteful. But in fact, if it's more citizens living there, they can be less wasteful and still paying at a higher rate than their next door neighbors, where there's 2 of them. So I think that, I guess we're going to apply the 5% just sort of uniformly to those rates.
This year, for the 2013 and 14 budget, I literally applied it across the board to the basic charge and to the block consumption charges. But oddly enough, I get sort of pinched in the middle, because I hear the arguments from you and others with the big family. Oh, I'm paying more on the upper block, and I get the same argument from the people living by themselves. I'm paying this exorbitant amount per unit of water, because I'm paying $16 before I even use a drop, and then I'm paying, though I only use 200 cubic feet of water a month, I'm paying way more than the guy down the street with 4 people. So it's more of a council decision on where you want to go. And again, I kind of get pinched in the middle, because I get the arguments on both sides, and I don't have a preference. It's just, where does council want to be? But the same argument goes for the person who doesn't use much water but has to pay the meter charge and only has 1 or 2 people in the house too.
But that is, my answer to that, the meter charge is different. And anybody that, frankly, I don't like paying the meter charge either, but But the meter charge is really about the fact that we have to, once you put the meter in, you have to provide that capacity. So we have to have reservoirs and pump
Right.
capacity all preserved so that somebody can turn on their water and their 5/8 meter can flow the water. So that's all about building that in. The rate steps are about conservation, but I'm just saying, since we've never had a mechanism to know how many residents are in each home, it's sort of a fakey way to apply conservation. I mean,
Well, I know, but I'm just saying they don't understand that. And I just get
Yeah,
it, well,
okay.
I'm paying this for water, and then the big family's
Yeah.
going, I'm paying this for water.
Right.
I'm just going,
right.
Randy,
Okay.
if you
That's fine, yeah,
hate to say, yeah, I just wanted, well, I want to have some clarification. We're not changing this concept in this, when we went to whatever the term is for watering and all that kind of stuff. We're not changing that concept. At all
The block
in this.
rates are staying the same, and the fact that we charge for irrigation meters separately and irrigation consumption separately is not changing.
Right, so we could
Everything's
have
the
this
same.
discussion, but it would need to be separate. We're not making any changes.
Yes,
in
we're not
this.
making
Yeah,
any
thank you.
changes to it, no.
Peace. Okay, thanks.
John?
Okay, now I gotta, staying on this block charge. So, when I get my bill, and if I use, say I use over 1,000, and I don't think I do, but do I get the first,
Yes,
I get the first amount of usage at the lower rate, and then I get into the next tier?
Yes.
And then I can get into the
Yeah.
third tier?
you get 5 units at the low block, you get the next 5 at the mid block, and then anything over those first 5 and 5, you get at the third block.
Okay.
And that goes for each month. We do bi-monthly read on consumption, but they do the rates, it's kind of different. They do the rates analysis by each month. So you get 500 each month, 500 each month, and then over 1,000 each month.
And I guess the whole hope in the electronic metering, or that we will then go to a monthly reading,
We could, yes.
so that the people would be kind of an instantaneous billing, so you wouldn't get this flex. And then I guess the other big thing about this new metering system when it's done is they can set it so that if they see your consumption going high, they can notify you before you you have a leak.
We've already found all sorts of funny stuff out there, like meters that aren't turning at all, meters that are like reading weird things in the middle of the night when there shouldn't be anything, meters that are, I mean, we've found all sorts of stuff already, and we hardly have started the program. It's going to be, we're going to be able to tell all sorts of things from this program.
That's good. And then I just kind of an editorial comment. I have a little RV lot over in the big city of Usk, USK, Washington.
Okay.
And my water bill went from $20 a month to $69 a month
Woo.
because of all the requirements that have been put in on water systems. So my education here helped me
Yeah.
John will soon be a water.
swallow it a little easier.
Yeah.
I mean, it just the point is, it's just not us
Right.
that are having these
Yeah.
problems. And I guess, you know, you look at Seattle and you see all these water main breaks that they have, and they lose all the water, they have all the disruption. I think that's what we're trying to get ahead of, so we can replace and keep our system in good shape, so that we can avoid that kind of catastrophe, which we have had a few,
Yes.
but not that many. But we have some really old pipes that need to be replaced, and this is
And that's why we're
say-
turning to the reinvestment, really trying to emphasize reinvestment, because we haven't been, and that's all well and good, but there comes a time when you need to do it, bite the bullet and do it. And we were starting to see some failures, and you just don't want to be chasing failures, because that's a very hard thing to turn around. So I think, you know, we're doing fine, and we're making a really good progress on meeting those financial policies and our system reinvestment. And working more on a cash basis, and our debt load is reduced significantly. And it's really amazing when you are doing most of your capital improvement program on a rates basis and not a bonding basis, what you can do. It's so much nicer.
So anyway, that's my
No,
editorial
it's,
comment.
yeah. And if, you know, if I may, I mean, actually, I'm okay with the proposal, so, and I appreciate the way you answered the questions. And I was going to say, yeah, I've been on Utilities Committee many times, and have chaired it in the past, and people have asked when they turn off their water and leave, you know, they might be headed to Phoenix for the winter, or maybe, I'm sure this is going on with banks now. They shut off the water, but we still charge them the monthly fee.
Yes.
And I've always explained that that's because all of our side of the pipe system is still in the street, ready to supply their home, and that's all got water in it and is rusting a little bit every year. So if they shut off their water for 20 years, we'd still be maintaining, we'd be digging up pipes and putting them, you know, putting new pipes in to have the water there when they want it.
That
And,
basic charge, it pays for what we call readiness to serve,
Yeah.
which is not only providing the domestic supply, but also the firefighting
Right,
capacity.
and it's covering their fire too.
But in
yeah.
addition, it covers the meter itself. That is infrastructure, and the city owns that.
Mm-hmm.
If it sits there, it is still degrading. We are expected to maintain it,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're there or not, and we need to replace it, and we still need to take a look at it every now and then. So even if it's shut off, it's still not shut off in terms
Mm-hmm. Right.
of our infrastructure. So.
Okay. Good.
Any other questions from council? As is our procedure, is we don't pass anything out the same night we hear it. So next week on unfinished business, there will be a committee report that reads, the Committee of the Whole recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the 2013-2014 revenue increases of 5% each year for water, wastewater, surface water, and solid waste. Keep the King County rate stabilization charge at $1.16 per wastewater account, and raise the utility tax by 0.8% for each utility. The committee further directs staff to prepare an ordinance to amend Chapter 1, Garbage, Chapter 2, Storm and Surface Waters, Chapter 4, Water, and Chapter 5, Sewer of Title 8, Health and Sanitation of City Code, and present the ordinance for first reading. Again, that will go out on unfinished business next week. At this point, I'll adjourn us to 6:15 in the Council Conferencing Center for the Public Works Department Employee Recognition Reception.
Very nice.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Sodas, you won't find a sugary soda in there. Everything is diet or water.
Why are you trying to get rid of all the sugar?
Have you heard about kids getting more overweight than ever before? Well, we're trying to help with that.
My name is Sunithia Parker, and I am the health ministry lead at Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. The first program that we've changed actually is our feeding program. We have made changes such as making sure water is the primary beverage and that we always serve fruits and vegetables, and just much healthier than what we were serving previously.
You guys got rid of soda, right?
Yeah, what we serve is water, no soda here.
Any place in Seattle or any place in any city can make these changes. They can go in and say, wait a minute, let's have healthier choices for our kids.
We're working together. We're learning the importance of kind of coming together and making change in our community. And, you know, that's something that we can do, and it doesn't take large numbers to make things like that happen.
If this group got together to get rid of soda, I bet we could do the same thing in other places too. Cheers!
My problem was with jars, especially the peanut butter jars. I just didn't want to clean them out. Call it the ick factor. But then I discovered a couple things. One, that more than half the stuff shown